This is the product brochure lecture for the Art 159 Graphic Design Layout class. So this module is going to go over creating a product brochure and starting to use some of these principles that we've explored through graphic design layout and start to define these within a more specific brand identity. So there are different brochure definitions, but they basically all say the same thing. Essentially, a brochure is some sort of document, either digital or made out of paper, that contains some promotional content or some sort of information. In the case of what we're going to be working on, we are going to be creating a product brochure that's essentially going to act as a marketing tool. And companies often use these sort of brochures to promote their different products and services. And again, maybe highlight some specific features or show how their product is different or superior to those within the market competitors. So we have a few examples here of how different brochures can be created, printed, and folded within distribution. We see a very simple sort of layout here, an 8.5 by 11 size document, which is multi-page, put in a sort of saddle stitch here along the side. And we see a variety of other options here as well. What we're going to be working on in the class is a trifold, which is similar to this over here, two-sided, front and back. So the first thing that you need to do to get started with this brochure is know your brand. And in this case, you are going to be choosing what brand you want to use and what product within that brand you want to highlight. So before designing your brochure, make sure you've collected all of those assets and you've thought about what the actual brand story is, and maybe bring in some of those elements of the brand identity. So thinking about the story, the mission, the values of that brand, knowing all that information can help you to fully create that brand consistency throughout all the different elements that you're working on. And it's really important to maintain that brand consistency throughout all these different channels. So making sure that all the promotional materials, including the brochures, follow these same branding guidelines. So for example, you'd always want to use the same logo and the appropriate colors that should align with that brand. Thinking about what the info for the product brochure should include, you should make sure that the visuals or the images you're using are purposeful. You should have some headlines and some concise text with clear hierarchy within the formatting of that text. You want to include any branding elements, and you want to include contact information in relation to that brand as well. So looking at what these mean, purposeful visuals. This means that your cover image is going to draw attention to the brochure. Generally, the cover image should be one image that highlights the product in some way. It needs to stand out, but again, it should be consistent with that brochure design. This is an example here from a previous student who chose Samsung, and more specifically the product of the Galaxy Buds Pro for their product brochure. So you can see that they have two images that they're displaying here on the cover. The cover is on the right-hand side, and the back cover is on the left-hand side, imagining that this is printed out and going to be folded to create the back and front cover. So we have the front cover here on the right-hand side. And again, very purposeful images. We have a model in here that is wearing the product. They have this sort of action that is drawing the viewer's eyes into a featured image, an isolated image of the product that's being highlighted with some clear branding elements that are pulled from the space as well. On the back, you can see the contact information, some social media elements, the website, and again, the logo to make sure that that product placement is consistent. Oops. Next, you want to think about your product headline. So the headline should be quick and concise. It should grab the attention of the reader in a small amount of time and deliver that right information quickly. So, for example, most of the brands that you're going to choose already have some sort of slogan or headline that's associated with them. And you can use that. You don't have to create your own necessarily. You can use what they have. In the case of Yamaha here, we can see a previous student's Bring Your Music to Life, which is the headline that they chose. Again, using an image and an isolated image here that pertains back to the actual product. Here on the right hand side, we can see this series of, or a set of markers for the brand Copic, and they have the headline, "High Quality Markers That Last a Lifetime." So again, you do not need to create this yourself. Within the research that you find of your own brand, make sure that you are including some sort of headline within the space, whether it's on the cover or the interior of the brochure. As for the text and the typographic hierarchy, you should make sure that the text that's included in the brochure is important, as it has the power to communicate your brand's message to the readers. That means that the subheadings should offer some sort of information, and if people skim through the brochure, the headline and the subheaders should offer some sort of clear idea about what that company is, as well as some sort of clear path within the typographic hierarchy. Now, you are going to be used, or you can use placeholder text within this project. So you are not actually having to write this out or collect actual text. You're going to be using placeholder lorem ipsum. So in all of the examples that you'll see, the text is just this nonsensical Latin that is just placeholder text to show what that would look like within the hierarchy. But you can see that there are clear columns within this grid that's being used. This is a 3-column grid on each page. So we have 6 columns within the spread. So 2 pages make a spread. We have the headlines within the space over here that are both in blue, highlighting those. Then we have these subheaders and then the body copy being used as well. And then, of course, they're including the logo and these purposeful images within the space, all aligning within this grid, and again, creating this typographic hierarchy. So branding elements, as I previously mentioned, it's imperative to know and promote your brand. One of the best ways to do that is to be consistent with the visual point of view. Obviously, the logo is going to be very important within that. So you're going to need to collect the logo as one of the assets for that product and that brand. Make sure that it's a high quality logo or a high quality image that you're able to use either as a transparent Illustrator or PNG file, or some sort of image that you will be able to isolate and use freely within your design. And make sure that it's not too large on the cover. Again, you want to draw attention to it, but you don't want it to be overwhelming. Think about the overall visual hierarchy and allow space for those elements to breathe within the cover and the interior as well. So here we can see another student example. And again, we see the full spread of the front and back cover, front being on the right, back cover being on the left. We can see here that they're actually spanning the image through the entire front and back cover of the spread. And on the front, they are including the logo here. And although it is large, it is this very tonal quality. So the emphasis is not actually quite as strong. And then we have, of course, the specific logo for the product here. And then the imagery. And then on the back, we have some more of the information in relation to contact information here, social media, and website. Here we see this other example where we can see the front and back cover as well, where we see the purposeful imagery. We can see that the headline is in place here, and they are consistent with the typography and these branding elements. So making sure that the logo is placed here on the front and it is not too large, it has some area to breathe, making sure that the colors and the imagery that's being used is consistent with that product and that brand. And lastly, thinking about that contact information. So you should include some sort of contact information in the brochure. If your brochure is a physical one, the contact options are standard. So thinking about some sort of website link, a physical address, if that's a viable option, an email or phone number. And again, you can repeat the logo within this space to reiterate what that company is. So we can see that here for this student's cover for the Yamaha grand piano. You'll notice they have the logo, they have the corporation name in a slightly bolder font, then they have the address, the website information, and then social media icons that have been downloaded as well. So you may need to collect some of these assets to use for your brochure. As you get into the front cover, the brochure's cover's purpose is really aimed, again, at grabbing the attention of that audience. So this is where you should place that headline, potentially, and think about some sort of cover image that's going to be very appropriate. Making sure that the cover contains your company's name, the logo, and making sure that it's going to stand out and be memorable. You can see an example of this one here where the typography is for fall favorites, sweet seasonal selections. And we have this very isolated image here which really draws attention to the specific product, including the logo in the space as well. And then thinking about your back cover, this section again should make people engage with your business. So not so much trying to grab their attention, they've already made it through your catalog, now you're trying to convince them to make a purchase, donate to your cause, visit your event, follow your social media, or contact you. So the back cover should always contain that contact information or some sort of call to action that allows them to take further steps to either purchase that product or get in contact with the specific company or business or service. So to get started here, you're going to want to choose a product or a service and start to gather some of those images. Make sure you have a variety of high resolution images to populate the entire brochure. And you will use placeholder text for the majority of the information. But there should be at least 3 levels of hierarchy within that text. So thinking about a header, subheader, and body copy. Even though you're using that placeholder text, I still want to make sure that you're considering the fonts and the actual hierarchy that's being used. Once you have chosen your product and started to collect those images, then you're going to create some sketches that will consider the layout of the entire catalog. So your sketches should include the front and back of your catalog, as well as the interior spreads. And you'll see that there's going to be a total of 2 pages on the cover and back cover, and 2 pages for the interior spread. So you should have 2 full spreads for each set of your sketches that you are going to consider within your final design. Once you have those sketches, you can start to build your actual InDesign template. And we will be preparing this file for print at the end of the project. And that's why we can see some of these color bars, these cut marks or trim marks here on the side, as well as some registration marks and some printing information, because that's how we're going to prepare the final file to be sent off to a printer. So there are some other examples, and you can look at some previous examples inside the module as well. There's a full PDF that you can review there and take a look at what other students have done and how they have gone about this. And that pretty much covers the lecture here. So if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out. We will cover the tutorial shortly.